welcome to the special first edition of Dreamseed VR News. I'm your host, Sarah Finn, and tonight we dive into a New Year's edition where we explore the news of the past year, 2019, and we move into the future of 2020. Hopefully, in the future, all the newscasts will look like this. We're going to go ahead and explore the 4 different realms that I laid out in our previous issue. We've got art, tech, VR, and psychedelics. Are you ready? Let's jump right in. In the art sphere, we have recently our cyberpunk fairy goddess Grimes releasing her new album, Anthropocene. Very cool. Some of the tracks on this album are featured on the upcoming video game Cyberpunk 2077. She's also going to be doing a voiceover for that game. She recently performed for the Video Game Awards, and yeah, she released an alternative music video for My Name is Dark that she made in her hotel room while touring around. Super fun. And she used a bunch of really amazing AR filters made by Paige Peaskin on Instagram. They're adorable. I highly recommend you check them out. She has over 40 filters that you can use when you follow her. So a little bit of a side note regarding tech news and sort of overlapping with art, we have an announcement from HBO that they're currently developing an adaptation of Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, no spoilers, Snow Crash was published in 1992 by Neil Stephenson. It's a cult classic. It has a lot of cool cyberpunk elements to it. It covers history, linguistics, anthropology, archaeology, religion, computer science, politics, cryptography, memetics, and philosophy. It's a classic. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. No spoilers. If you're already a fan, you may feel positively or negatively about a potential adaptation, but fingers crossed, it should be excellent. In tech news, we have a crazy announcement from the US government that happened just a couple weeks ago. They announced that they plan on having cybernetic soldiers as of the year 2050. So a lot of people think that this is a silly thing to announce, but in a way, it's kind of like the United States just saying, oh, did you hear that? That was a firework. It means the new year is coming. Anyway, so a lot of people think that the United States is basically just claiming the territory, saying, we will be here by 2050, so hold on to your britches, because it's going to be something to compete with. That tends to be the consensus of why they would be motivated to make an announcement like that. But regardless, apparently cyber soldiers are coming, so oh shit. Now in VR news, we're going to be doing a recap of the past year. 2019 was an incredible year for VR, AR, XR, all of the acronyms for all of the kinds of new digital technologies that are interfacing with us visually, whether that's fully immersive or semi-immersive, like this cool fictitious little head-mounted heads-up display. And to start with, we're gonna just talk about this past Christmas. Oculus Quest basically sold out regionally in many different territories. They were a little bit short on stock, but at the same time selling out generates hype, which means that VR is going to be in more and more demand, and we're going to be seeing it become mass adopted, which is something people in the industry have been really excited about, but also struggling to achieve. So yay. Also on the Oculus front, Medium was recently acquired by Adobe. Medium, if you're not familiar with it, is a really cool 3D modeling program that's in VR. You can create beautiful volumetric sculptures and export them as OBJ or FBX and use them to create characters, environments, objects, vehicles, all kinds of stuff. It's a really amazing program. It's quite similar to Masterpiece VR, and it's been an explosion of creativity in the VR scene. Really cool. Everything from like organic stuff to Gundam looking mechs, things like that. But there's also a lot of hesitation from the fan base of Medium because they're worried about a potential subscription-based payment system that Adobe might adopt when re-offering Medium to a new user base. So that's something to keep in mind. But at the same time, we do want to reward the developers for their hard work, and being acquired by a bigger company means security and that they were successful, essentially. So congratulations to the Medium team. Congratulations to Oculus. And hopefully there are incredible things in the future for Medium. Oculus also rolled out hand tracking recently for its Quest models. something anticipated from the OC6 conference, and something really exciting. You won't need your bumbly controllers for certain programs and movements, and it's also open for developers to integrate new ways of interacting with the environment in VR. Also related to Facebook and Oculus, we hear that Facebook has bought the neural input device maker Control Labs. Recently, John Carmack, the CTO of Oculus, left to pursue AI development. Carmack is best known for his work historically on Doom, and oh boy, are there a huge mob of fanboys who adore this guy's work, so good on you, John Carmack. Please don't make Skynet. Boneworks, a new VR game, actually outstripped Beat Saber's old record as the highest-selling VR title. It seems like in the first week, Boneworks made $3 million, and it sold over 100,000 units. Really cool. Recently, Beat Games was acquired by Facebook, and Beat Games is the people responsible for Beat Saber, which was previously the most popular selling title. Now the title goes to Boneworks, but Beat Saber is often the first game that many people play in VR, and it's often the game that gets them really hooked. It's super fun, very engaging, wonderful for fitness, and it's exciting that it's been acquired because it shows the long-lasting power of it as a title, but also opens it up to more songs, more deals with musicians and artists, and it recently expanded into a 360 mode. So instead of just slicing cool little cubes coming at you from a 90-degree angle face on, now you can slice your cubes in the round and feel like a true lightsaber master. In more VR news, Fable Studios pivots from interactive storytelling to virtual beings. Also from Fable Studios, they recently won an Emmy for their work Wolves in the Walls. Congratulations, Fable. It's the part of the news where your humble anchor gets really mushy because I'm going to be delivering some sad news. 2 titans have left the building over the past month. The first of which was psychedelic spiritual teacher Ram Dass. Ram Dass, born Richard Alpert in 1931, recently passed away on December 22nd. Also known as Baba Ram Dass, he was an American spiritual teacher, psychedelic pioneer, psychologist, academic, and author. His best-known book, Be Here Now, has been described as seminal and helped popularize Eastern spirituality in the West. He authored and co-authored 12 more books on spirituality over the next 4 decades, including Grist for the Mill and How Can I Help? Ram Dass has personally and professionally been associated with Timothy Leary at the Harvard University in the 1960s. Then known as Richard Alpert, he conducted research with Leary on the therapeutic effects of psychedelic drugs. In addition, Alpert assisted Harvard Divinity School graduate Walter Pankey in his 1962 Good Friday experiment with theology students with the first controlled double-blind study for drugs and mystical experiences. While not illegal at the time, the research was controversial and led to Leary and Alpert's dismissal from Harvard in 1963. Alpert and Leary co-authored a book entitled The Psychedelic Experience with Ralph Metzner, based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it was published in 1964. The other amazing titan of industry who left us was Sid Mead, who is an industrial designer who worked for Ford Motors doing concept cars. He's also considered one of the granddaddies of futurism in cinema. Born in 1933, Sid Mead graduated with great distinction from the Arts Center School in Los Angeles, now the Art Center College of Design, in June of 1959. In 1970, he launched Sid Mead Incorporated in Detroit, Michigan, to accommodate the high caliber of the offers he received. In 1979, projects began to include work with the most major studios on such feature films as Star Trek, the motion picture, followed by Blade Runner, Tron, 2010, Short Circuit, Aliens, Time Cop, Johnny Mnemonic, Mission Impossible 3, and most recently, Elysium, starring Jodie Foster and Matt Damon, directed by Neil Blomkamp. Blomkamp. Sid began to develop close working relationships with a number of major Japanese corporate clients, including Sony, Minolta, Detsu, Daifleck, Tiger Shaibu Mitsukoshi, as well as Bandai, NHK, and Honda, contributing to 2 Japanese film projects, The New Yamato and Crises 2050. In the 90s, Sid supplied designs for 2 Japanese toy icons, The New Yamato and all 8 robot characters in the new Turn a Gundam Mobile Suit series, which also was seen with characters in the television shows. With transportation design as his first love, Sid Mead seldom misses an opportunity to provide his unique blend of futurism and believability to those projects consisting of a vehicle that travels from A to B. Whether it be designing solar-powered unicycles, show cars, luxury yachts, cruise ships, the interiors of private 747s, or interplanetary spacecraft, each receives the same attention to detail with a perfectly designed scenario. Former designer for Ford Motor Company, U.S. Steel, Philips Electronics. After establishing himself as a futurist consultant, he has visualized technology in products such as companies Sony, Chrysler, Mechanics Illustrated, and Playboy. Incredible, right? So that was a little bit of an excerpt from his bibliography on his website, so directly from the source. And this man nearly has a Shakespearean influence on the future. His aesthetics will live beyond his years in the imaginations of everybody who was inspired by him, and he bequeathed a beautiful vision of future industrial design to thousands, if not, hundreds of thousands or millions of artists. Incredible work, high scoreboard, kick-ass Sid. These 2 titans of science fiction and psychedelics had a huge influence on the past several decades of American culture, as well as international culture. They both lived to be in their 80s and had incredible full lifetimes. So I want to take a moment and thank them for their work. I encourage you to check out both of their work respectively and be inspired and pass it on. This week we have 3 amazing titles to introduce you to. The first of which is Women of Visionary Art by David J. Brown and Rebecca Ann Hill. This is an incredible book. It's not only a color-filled tome of artwork by the women of visionary art, but it's also an interview series with all of the artists, giving you insight into their journey, their shamanic influences, and other things that burst from their imagination. So definitely do yourself a favor and check this book out. It's filled with full color images of incredible artists. It's wonderful to buy for yourself for different trip journeys, things like that. Or maybe you want to gift it to somebody and introduce them to the genre of visionary art. Yep. Women of Visionary Art by David J. Brown and Rebecca Ann Hill. You can find this on Amazon. Now, the second title is an interview with my favorite author, Philip K. Dick. He is the author behind Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was the inspiration for Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, as well as many, many other science fiction movies over the past few decades, including Total Recall, Minority Report, Scanners, and this title is What If Our World Were Their Heaven? This is actually an interview with him 2 months before he passed away with his good friend Gwen Lee, and it goes into some of the ideas that he was exploring for his next planned piece. I believe it was called An Owl in the Daylight. I've read a little bit about that from excerpts of this, and I'm looking forward to diving into it. And once I've read it, I'll give you my feedback on what I think. And finally, we have Exopsychology by Timothy Leary, a manual on the use of the human nervous system according to the instructions of the manufacturers. This is a classic title considered to be one of his most important works towards the end of his career. It's an explanation of his theory on the 8 circuits of consciousness, which go through the different layers of the evolutionary brain, as well as making sort of pontifications on the potential future of the human race as a space-faring species. So, Exopsychology by Tim Leary. You can find this reprinted from its classic version on Amazon, and you can also find first editions used on Amazon, which is a beautiful silver cover with Tim Leary's smiling face. So those are the 3 titles that we have for you this week. I hope you're able to find them if they intrigue you and that you enjoy them once you read them. Thanks for tuning into this special edition of Dreamseed News with me, your host, Sarah Finn. Please check out our main website as well as our Patreon to help support us, and we will continue to bring you the news from the future.